Hi Year 11. So we're focusing this session on English Literature Paper 2, Section A, which is of course DNA. Now you will be aware from studying DNA in class that in your exam you will get a choice of 2 questions. Generally, one is around a character and one tends to focus on a theme. The reason you get a choice of 2 is because you don't get an extract from the play, like you do with the Romeo and Juliet, with the Christmas Carol, and with the love poetry and unseen poetry. So nothing is provided for you other than a choice of 2 questions. Now, the thing with character questions is you need to know the characters well, and normally I would suggest that Phil, Leah, Brian, Kathy and Adam would be the main characters who tend to come up. It was Leah last year and it was Phil the year before. So we are thinking this year it could be a question on Kathy, Brian or Adam. But the other angle is you might want to go down the theme route. Now, themes in DNA are brilliant to write about. You know, you've got powerful characters, as I'm going to look at today. You've got leadership, bullies, victims, gangs, all things that allow you to write about really meaty characters, okay? So when you are faced with a choice of question, remember to do the one that will allow you to write the best essay. So let's have a look at this question. Explore how Dennis Kelly presents powerful characters in DNA. 30 marks on offer, +4 for spelling, punctuation and grammar. So with literature and with a question like this, it's always worth starting when you're revising with a bit of a mind map on what your initial ideas are. What comes to mind when you think of powerful characters in DNA? So, if I was to do this, I think probably 4 names might come to mind. Obviously, I'm going to think about Phil. Yeah, he's a really powerful, manipulative, coercive character. But also, he's quite powerless at the end. So I think he'd be quite a good one to write about because I'm going to be able to show how characters are multidimensional. Kathy. We know that her power increases as the play unfolds. And she doesn't try to use her power to do good. So I feel like I could have quite a nice angle there. John Tate holds the initial power over the group. And Leah. Now, Leah's a bit of a curveball. So when I say Leah, you might think, Leah? Why is she saying Leah? She's not powerful. However, she's almost like the opposite of Phil. So she's powerless in the first part of the play. But at the end, she's the one who has the power in the relationship with Phil. Because she's the one who leaves. She spits out the sweet and storms off. And she leaves Phil not eating and staring into the distance. So I think that might add quite an interesting dimension by including Leah as well. Now, what I do think I'd do is narrow it down to 3. So my personal feeling is that in 40 minutes, 3 characters explored in detail relating to a theme is more than enough. So I think that if I was to sort of sharpen up my planning there, I would think about Phil, Kathy and Leah. And I'd make brief notes about what I'm going to sort of include in my introduction really and what my thesis statement might be. So I'm going to show that I understand power and how power can use to do good, but also it can be coercive, controlling and manipulative. I'm going to talk about how without any adults in the play, you know, Dennis Kelly says, I wanted to create a world without adults. And he certainly does that. And he shows how power becomes a horrible, abusive mechanism. And I'll mention the bit about holding a mirror up to society and exposing the dangers of power when it's in the wrong hands. You know, really when power that adults should have, children assume and make terrible mistakes. You know, obviously with framing the postman, and the eventual killing of Adam. So I feel like I've got a good argument there that I can put forward. Definitely the most moral character, isn't she? She appears quite powerless in her relationship with Phil. So, you know, when you get a question, it's fine to look at the opposite of the power, the powerlessness. She really struggles to influence him. She's the mouthpiece for society. She breaks the fourth wall. Yeah. She shows signs that she wants to break away, and she does in the end. She has the power to break away from Phil, and she's the super ego. She wants to live by the rules. She's ultimately disgusted by what they've done. And interestingly, she's the one whose parents are actively involved here. The most moral character who gets the strength to leave is actually the one who has parents who are guiding her from right from wrong. And I suppose the antithesis to Leah is Kathy, a character who's completely disaffected and detached from society. She almost comes across as a sociopath. We learn that she enters grinning when Brian is crying. Shows that real direct contrast between their attitudes. No compassion or feeling towards Brian. She actually says that Adam's death and the plan is better than ordinary life. So disturbing. She'll do anything to gain authority and power. She's chomping at the bit to help Phil out. She's so happy to be able to manipulate Brian. She craves that. And then you've got to ask yourself the question, is there anything redeemable about her? Possibly. If this is better than ordinary life, what kind of life does Kathy have? Yeah, she's very much the id aspect of Freud's personality model. She's a nihilist. She's without morals. She relishes the situation they're in. She says, this is mad, eh? Even at 4, Richard calls her insane. We learn she's cut her first year's finger off. And it's at that point, really, where she seems to be holding all the cards and the control and the power. And she's obviously using it in a really vicious way. Now, with all literature, there are those taught inferences that teachers give you. My 5 on DNA are there. Most of them are to do with Phil and Leah. But, of course, anything that Phil does can be linked to Adam, Brian, Kathy too. So you got Philly's not eating and stares into the distance. Now, this is a good one for his powerlessness. Not going to read them all. You've got access to this. You can go back and look at them. But, you know, talk about methods as in the stage direction. Methods in literature are not just the noun, the adjective, the verb. We're not talking language here. A method is anything the writer's done deliberately. So when Dennis Kelly has the stage direction that Philly's not eating and stares into the distance, we can think about why he's staring, this idea that he's disassociated with society, his possible guilt, numbness around him. The fact that he's looking into the distance there. He can't recover from the murders, Leah's departure. He's almost gone into his own world. The not eating could be a sign that he now wants to reconnect with others. He used to not eat as a controlling behaviour with Leah. The fact that he isn't eating now maybe shows that he's ready to sort of admit, you know, where he's gone wrong, or perhaps he's just beyond redemption at this point. I'm in charge, everyone is happy. A really good quote for power. Leah's power, really good quote with the Leah spits out the sweet and storms off. Again, we give you taught inferences to help you develop what you're saying, and once you develop something thoughtful, you'll head into the 7. So, the task I'm going to leave you with here is that I've written half of an essay, and I'm leaving you to write the second half, okay? So I'll have a look at what I've written so far, and then I'll explain what I want you to go away and practice. So the question is, explore how Dennis Kelly presents powerful characters in the play DNA. Arguably in the play DNA, the theme of power is used to hold up a mirror to society and exemplify the dangers posed to society without authority. Indeed, the writer Dennis Kelly said, "I wanted to create a world without adults." And in the play DNA, this power within characters is both abused and used to good effect in Phil, Kathy and Leah. So very clear thesis statement there. Leah is undoubtedly one of the most moral characters in the play, and it is this that is arguably what causes her to show strength but also weakness. She struggles to assert her views when in the company of Phil, and this is shown through Kelly's use of repetition. Phil, Phil, Phil. She's unable to stop him ordering the death of Adam, and the constant rejection from Phil leads her to question, do I disgust you? No, I do. This highlights her insecurities and her lack of equality in the relationship. Yet on a deeper level at the end of the play, it's clear that she does have power over Phil and their relationship, as we learn through the stage direction that she spits out the sweet and storms off. The symbol of a sweet is synonymous with childhood and innocence, and by spitting this out, we recognise a strength in Leah that shows she no longer wants to be part of the relationship. Ironically, the use of disgust here is juxtaposed with her earlier comment, which shows she now has recovered her self-worth and feels powerful enough to break free. This is reinforced by the fact that she storms and does not walk away, given how powerful and forceful storms can be. Now, it's that that's pushed this to a 7 now. Undoubtedly, the character of Phil shows the ability to take on a powerful leadership role, but there is a vulnerability to him. His abusive and dictatorial powerful stance is best illustrated when he takes control of the group and issues commands. Kathy, Brian, Matt, you go to Adam's house, and what's more important, one person or the group? Much of his dialogue is imperatives, and the use of the personal pronouns like you set him apart from the others. Applying Freud's theory of the personality, Phil clearly represents the ego in that he is the organiser who weighs up the situation carefully before issuing orders. Now, what I'd like you to do there is pick this answer up and look at the other side of Phil, where he's powerless at the end. And then, that final paragraph, focus on Kathy. Finally, a character who, according to Freud, would fit the id part of the personality. A nihilist who appears to relish violence is Kathy, who arguably gains increasing power as the play progresses. And look at Kathy there. Yeah. So a really useful way of revising literature is to use this and write half answers. Yeah. So you've got half of a grade 7 there written by me. And now it's down to you to write the second half. Okay. Thank you.